Hey guys, and welcome back to the 10th episode of Death Row Executions. If you like what you are about to watch, please subscribe and give the video a like for me. I would really appreciate it. Today's story is on Richard Albert Leavitt. Richard was born on November 12, 1958, and was executed for the 1984 murder of Danette Elg. There is not much on Richard's early life, but a lead investigator for Danette's murder, Stuart Robinson, said that prior to the murder of Danette, Richard had a history of strange and violent behavior and was known around town for being a violent person. He was a suspect on 3 other rape cases. Tom Moss, who was a prosecutor on the case, said that Richard had previously been charged in a different county for killing 2 cows with a bow and arrow, and also strangled and killed small animals for no reason. On July 16, 1984, 31-year-old victim Danette Jean Elg called the police to report someone prowling around her house and trying to break in. Unfortunately, the police did nothing, and just 2 days later, Richard came back to Danette's house and this time was able to break in. On July 18, 1984, Richard went into the victim's home while she was in bed and viciously attacked her. He stabbed her around 15 times, and there were slash wounds on her body as well. Along with the stabbings, her sexual organs were removed. There was a stab wound that penetrated her stomach, chest cavity, neck, and one stab wound went through her eye, stabbing her brain. Also, when her organs were cut out, it was done in a manner where it looked as if a skilled person who studied the anatomy of a woman did the cutting, because everything was extremely precise. Danette's body was not found until a few days later, and within those few days, Richard contacted police and friends of Danette's asking of her whereabouts. On July 18th, after the murder, Richard went to the emergency room for a serious wound he had on his left index finger. The blood reports showed that there were 2 different blood types present. Danette's blood was type A and Richard's was type O. Richard initially said that he was cut with a fan, and later said that he was preventing his wife from committing suicide. When they eventually found Danette's body, she was naked and caked in blood on a deflated waterbed. The sun was blazing down on her, and there were blisters on her decomposing body. The waterbed had been punctured during the murder, so there was a bit of water that had spilled on the floor. Her reproductive organs, sex organs, and rectum were all cut out. I mean, my gosh, talk about a sociopath with no feelings. I can't fathom anyone being capable of doing that, and I actually wonder if some surgeons are sociopaths who love cutting people open but have the ability to control themselves from actually killing the patients. It makes you think. But Richard reported Danette missing and told police he was concerned with her safety. Detective Robinson believed it was because he did not want his crime to go unnoticed and craved the sensationalism of the crime. The department knew he was the killer, but had to wait to gather evidence, which took over 2,000 hours and 5 months of work. They finally arrested him for the murder of Danette. At the trial, a lot of evidence was circumstantial, but there were 2 key witnesses. One being his ex-wife, Kelly Schofield, who went on stand testifying that she observed him playing with the female sex organs of a deer and then cutting them out. On another occasion, she accompanied him on a hunting trip. He killed a doe and brought it back to the truck, and she observed him sticking a knife in the doe's vagina in and out and then twisting the knife. He was unaware his wife was in the back of the truck, and when he finally noticed she was there, he said that he just wanted to see how sex organs worked. He also had a mistress who testified that before intercourse, he would bring out a big hunting knife. On September 25, 1985, It took jurors 3 hours to find him guilty and sentenced him to death. Up until execution day, Richard claimed his innocence. Richard made many appeals, and in one appeal he wrote a letter saying, "I did not murder Danette Elg. I am deeply sorry that she is dead, that she died in a violent death, and that her family and friends have also had to suffer her loss. But I recently took and passed a polygraph test which found that I was being truthful when I said I did not stab her or mutilate her body, and that I was not present when someone else did." Polygraph tests do not get accepted as evidence in Idaho. Richard's mother, Marjorie Leavitt, actually believed her son was innocent and she trusted in the polygraph test. I personally think a sociopath isn't going to show much emotion and will pass anything. For Richard's final meal, he had baked chicken, fries, and milk. He was then led into the gas chamber and strapped in. Warden Randy Blades led the execution and asked Randy if he had any last words. Richard made no eye contact, saying nothing, and just shook his head twice. The warden then asked Richard if he wanted his eyes covered, and he replied by saying no, which was the only thing heard in the execution room from him. The witnesses then witnessed the first lethal injection execution in the state of Idaho, and the witnesses described how smooth the execution went. He was pronounced dead at 10:25 a.m., and Richard Leavitt was on death row for exactly 27 years and died on June 12th, 2012. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to watch another episode of Death Row Executions. Comment below and tell me what you think about this episode.